So yeah, Suzanne and I, we got to spend about 14 days in Cambodia. Went to many of the same places that the team last year went to, and then a couple of new ones. And it was a pretty, there's a lot of really successive kind of intense moments with a lot of very lighthearted levity in the evenings where we're able to kind of circle back and talk about kind of what we've been through and what we went through and what's kind of come. So anyway, I got a couple of pictures here that kind of run through. Go ahead and move on to the next slide. First one is just kind of a quick shot at our tuk-tuks. So we had a team of total of leaders, I think we had 12 of us. So we had every day we had 3 tuk-tuks, and the 3 tuk-tuk drivers were Saman, who Steps of Justice has been working with for 7-8 years, and his cousin and his sister's brother-in-law. So it's real family-based, a lot of the stuff over there. So it's really cool working with those guys, and most of them didn't speak very good English, so a couple of times we had to pull out the dictionary, fail in attempting to pronouncing the Cambodian word, and then point to the Cambodian word of the dictionary and finally get an acknowledgement of what we were trying to talk about. So that was fun and very humbling at the same time. Go ahead and move on to the next one. First day we went there was kind of a cultural, kind of being steeped in what their history is. As many people know, during the 70s, the Khmer Rouge regime came in and basically took and wiped out millions of people. They took all of the educated folks out of the city, tried to turn them into farmers or kill them, so that basically they were only generating agricultural exports, and then the government was providing whatever people needed. So that lasted a while, and we got to see some of the areas where they would take people to torture them, try to draw confessions out of them, and then take them to what they call the killing fields, where they would kill them. So it was pretty intense right off the bat, just to get a feel for, and this happened, 40 plus years ago, so it wasn't, there's a lot of people that we were talking with, and in villages we run into, the adults that were directly coming out of something like this, or their parents died in it. So it was very real to them. And one of the things that just happened on the tail end as we came back is they were having a political election. And this was their first political election where it really started steeping back into a bad spot, because the ruling party that was currently sitting in power decided that, and they barely won the last time around, so they decided, what's the best way to win this time? Let's jail and outlaw the opposing party so they can't compete against us. So they had an election and they won in a landslide. I think it was like, I heard 88%, but there was nobody opposing them because they basically shut them out. And so it was very much a sham election, and turning more to a dictatorship. So there's a lot of, leading up to it, there was a lot of unrest, because the last time something like this happened, it went south very quickly. So there's a lot of tension, and that was a lot of what we were praying for about the country, and what people were really concerned with was this situation. Would some of the other organizations rise up on election day and start like a guerrilla warfare? I mean, all these sorts of things were in their mind. Go ahead and move on to the next one. Yeah, again, another slide of one of the areas. They preserved this site, so you can see a lot of the rooms where some of the bad stuff happened, and they had pictures on the wall that were a lot more graphic if you wanted to really get a good look at what happened here, and they really want to remember that because they don't want this to happen again. All right, go on to the next one. And this is a shot from the killing fields, and one of the trees where a tremendous amount of the people were killed when they did kill them. And they had a philosophy that was, you don't just kill the parents or the offenders, you kill the whole family so that nobody can seek revenge against you. So everybody, when one person in a family was doomed, everybody went down with them. And that's pretty heavy when you think about the ages of some of the people that were killed. So it was pretty heavy and rough, and I'd say that was probably the day where most of us really kind of felt the heaviness of that area. All right, go on to the next one. So moving on to some of the good stuff. Coming out of that, we got to work with some of the villages. The first villages we worked at were some of Philip's villages. I had 3 different ones, so we went there on 3 different days. And we were able to use some of the money that we were given to take over to Cambodia. We bought 20 soccer balls, and a bunch of soccer pumps, and took these balls to the villages and various places and pumped them up, played with the kids, and just left them there. And it was definitely a big hit and a huge. We'd walk in with these three inflatable balls, and we'd start pumping one up, and then one kid would come, 2 kids would come, and pretty soon, we were getting our feet bruised and chasing balls down ravines into garbage-filled lakes, and it was really fun and a great way to connect with the kids. All right, go on to the next one. So this is some of the villages we went to. We had to take these little ferries, and I hesitate using the word ferry because it's kind of like wooden planks that are about 3 feet wider and longer than the car, where there's just enough room to stand on them without bumping into the guy steering the boat. And yeah, I think this one was a Lexus. I don't know how many people here would drive their Lexus onto this. Yeah, you drive it on, and if you don't stop within 2 feet, you go into the water. So, but that's just kind of a little bit of a picture of kind of some of the transportation things over there. It's very reduced, but they're very comfortable rolling like that. All right, go on, next slide. So this is Philip here in the orange/red shirt with one of the kids. When we got on the ferry where we met Philip to head over to his first village, this was one of the really cool things about our trip, was that there was a sense of us arriving in time to really support people that were struggling. That really continued to be a theme. My first experience meeting Philip was running into him where he was in a situation where he was broken, struggling, verbally communicating that this might have to be it for him. He might need to step down. Financially, he's been crushed by a bunch of support disappearing. The government decided that they were running out of money, and so they needed to go back and collect back taxes that they didn't tell people they were going to collect. So his organization had to pay like 8 years of back taxes that they weren't aware that they had to pay. Some of the people that were alongside him had to step down. All this administrative work that he's just not gifted in that area. He's great with people and really leading the charge, but all the paperwork on the back end was just overwhelming for him. And he had all these people that were leaning on him to keep things going because he was doing some amazing stuff. And he was just in tears, kind of caught in that stress and that, what do I do now? So our team really came alongside him. We prayed with him, we talked, and we ended up giving some of the money that we brought over to help him out, help him get the next 3 months to subsidize where his support had dropped so that he could keep going, as well as some seed money for some administrative support. So this night, we got back as a team and we prayed for Philip, and then we were gonna go get pizza. So while Phil was going to get pizza, because we prayed for somebody to come up and, some administrative work to be able to come and help him, Phil runs into an old friend that he hasn't seen in 10 years that he used to work with, doing some work in Cambodia when he first got there. And this guy had been, back into the mainstream commercial and working. And he sees Phil and he, runs up and gives him a hug. And Phil couldn't remember his name. I was like, I know you, but who are you again? So he was really embarrassed, and the guy was just super excited to see Phil. And, hey man, I tried to friend you on Facebook and you never responded. So Phil kind of had to eat some crow there, but it was really good because he was like, yeah, what are you guys up to? I've been really looking to get back involved in helping out some NGOs. Do you guys know of anybody in need? And we're like, well, it's funny you mentioned that. So they started that conversation that night. I'm really actually not curious exactly where it went. But just a lot of things like this were happening where, God was just really involved in what was going on. It was very clear that, and there's a couple other situations where one of the guys on our team randomly ran into one of the guys from his discipleship training school from 15 years ago, who was working, he married a Khmer lady, and they just started a restaurant in town, and he's been working with homosexuals and a lot of the male side of some of the nasty sexual things that are going on there. And he was at the end of his rope and was just ready to move back to Canada. And then we ran into him and just really helped bolster his situation. And he was just like, I needed this so bad. And I was just running on empty and feeling like I just asked God to help me and bring somebody to help me, and then you guys showed up. And so our team got to spend some time with him, and I got to ride on his motorcycle. It's in one of these shots here in the next few. But in this particular village, go ahead and go on to the next slide. We got to hike across roads and garbage-filled areas, and we were told that if we got a torrential downpour with this road that we were on, it was so bad that we might not be able to get out. We may need to spend the night there. So I know it's kind of exciting, but it was a little bit of a anxiety hanging over the team. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. So one of the cool things we did is with the villages, we put together a little program. So I played like soccer and games and stuff with the kids. We had a team to do crafts with them. Tony and Bev donated a Polaroid camera and like 200 or 300 pictures of film for it. So we were able to go take pictures of the kids, put the pictures on a cardboard cutout, which you'll see here in the next picture, write some letters or some words of encouragement. They would help decorate it, put stickers on it, and just kind of speak some truth into their lives through that. And it was a massive hit. At first, some of the kids were a little shy, but when they saw that they had a picture of themselves and the parents came out, were so excited. Towards the last village we were at, we had extra pictures, so we just did group shots with some of the kids, which is what's happening here. But it was just an awesome way for us to connect. Tony went on this trip last year, and you could tell that he knew this would be a really good tool to use in some of the areas that you guys were at. So it was awesome, and I think everybody's favorite tool that we used when we were there. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. I think there's some shots of the kids, us working with them, tables to put their picture on there and then draw some stuff. And I think that's Suzanne there in the bottom left. Go on to the next one. Oh yeah, and there's me with the face paint, looking like I'm not having a good time. But yeah, lots of fun. The kids didn't want to do the face paint very much, but so I kind of was a guinea pig. And then a couple of kids came up to me and wanted me to do the face paint that the girls put on me. And after realizing my ability in artistic endeavors, after the first two kids, no kid would come up to me for face paint, which was awesome. But at the same time, they all flocked over to where the girls were doing it, so it worked out well. Go ahead to the next one. And, the kids would just take these pictures around with them and treat them like they were their wallets. They just wouldn't let them out of their sights. And it was really cool. All right, go ahead to the next one. Yeah, some more kids with face paint. And the kids there were really engaged and playful and very well behaved in a lot of the areas. It was really easy to engage with them. All right, go ahead to the next one. I gotta pick up some speed here. So one of the places we went to that was new for this Steps to Justice trip was the garbage dump. We're not technically allowed in there. There was a Korean group that had worked with the leaders there to allow them to be there, and I guess they're there long term, and they have people that come down intermittently to change out with them, but there's a doctor that works with them, and there's people that actually live in these garbage dumps, and they go out and the garbage comes in, and they have a hierarchy where they pay money to see who gets first dibs on the new garbage, and then tier 2, tier 3, and so forth. So there's people walking around with these huge packs of garbage to bring to their houses, which are 50 feet away. A leaning piece of tin propped up against 3 feet of garbage, angled. And it was really different here because in other places there was a sense of this is normal for us, kind of living in poverty. But here it was shame. There's a lot of shame, humiliation in their eyes, and it was very, very hard to see just that people would actually reside in a place like that, where it was just, you think anywhere else, could you just go down 100 yards somewhere and just come here to grab for stuff during the day? But there's a sense of there's a financial source when that garbage comes in, and if they're not close to it when it does, they don't get the good stuff. And so there's a community that just develops in the garbage. And the kids here were very malnourished. We were feeding them some food, and most of them didn't have an appetite to eat. which was just really sad when you see a real thin kid with a cup of noodle soup that can't eat because they're so hungry they have no appetite. So it was pretty tough, but we did the same kind of kids program here, and he really connected with the kids, and there was a lot of really, really clingy kids that just needed, attention and touch. All right, go on to the next one. And this is the Korean doctor that we worked with at the dump. Really cool guy. Man, Koreans are organized people. I stopped in South Korea on the way back, and I was 2 minutes late for my tour and got chewed out by the tour guide because I wasn't on time, and I was like, wow, okay. And that wasn't uncommon. Everybody was like, everything's organized, lined up, and these guys did a great job of keeping things very organized, and we just got to step right in with them, and it was just fantastic. Worshiping in Korean, English, and Khmer at one point in time, and it was just really cool. I can't remember what song it was, but it was some song that everybody knew in their language when it was being sung, so everybody could kind of sing it in their own language, knowing what the words were. That was really awesome. I go on to the next one. This is our team. Everybody there with our boots on. Cambodian boots that were given to us were not made for American feet. I believe I was wearing a size 8, and there was probably 3 or 4 people that were about 2 or 3 sizes under. So our toes were just dying in those boots. But it beat walking around in some of the places we were at over there. All right, next slide. This is Matthew, that guy I was telling you about that we ran into. I got to ride on the back of his bike a couple of times. But he really was so blessed, and we ended up going over to his house for dinner. It was really cool how God brought us there and ran into him in a place where who would have thought that we would run into him? It's pretty crazy. All right, go ahead to the next slide. This is the Children at Risk. So we spent 3 days with these guys. This is kind of their main hub. And the first day we were there, they were giving away a bunch of bicycles to their kids to get to school that a team from New Zealand that had just come a week or 2 earlier had donated some money to buy bikes for the kids. So we got to see all these kids get new bikes, which was really awesome. And they rewarded them for the ones that had been going to school, and they called them up one by one and got to take them out there, and they would go out there, and you'd think here, when a kid, hey, you can have any one of these, 50 bikes. The kid would go up to each one and see which one I liked and what color. Man, they just took the first bike they could see, and it was like, they were so excited, they just didn't care if it was blue, pink, whether it had a basket on the front or not. They just grabbed a bike, and they were so pumped. I go ahead and go to the next one. Yeah, here's all the bikes that were in the front. So that was pretty awesome. The streets were just crawling with kids riding bikes after that. And the next couple days, we could see kids on these bikes as we were going in and out of the villages, and they would wave to us. And it was really cool. One of the things we did with Children at Risk is we partnered with them with some of the money that we brought. They had been building some community bathrooms that they were kind of on the adjacent part of their building for the community, which really needed them. And they kept running into these, call them code violations. But the person that was running the local community was really giving them a hard time, which is interesting because the person above them, I guess they have a great relationship with, who knows what good stuff they do. There was this weird kind of power dynamic going on. So they were forced to pay like $300 in, some sort of entitlement or survey or something, I don't know what we would call them here, but so we were able to, they were getting ready to have to start saving up for this to be able to, get them the last step of them going. So we were able to help them with that so they could kind of open these, get these things going. So they were really excited about being able to use bathrooms. I think that's important. Go ahead and go on the next slide. So this is one of the some of the kids at Children at Risk and some of the outlying areas where we worked with them. We did songs and games, and they jumped around, and they were a whole lot of fun. All right, go on to the next one. And that's me playing with one of the kids. This guy was, I think, probably autistic, and a lot of the kids were really beating up on him a lot. There's definitely a play hierarchy, and they don't have a lot of problems with kind of beating down their kids in their own hierarchy. First, I thought I was kind of being playful, and then I realized that they were very much putting people back in their places when different places in time, and this is just one example, but this kid was super cool. Next one. And one of the other things we bought is lice shampoo. So there was an opportunity for, I guess, a bunch of lice in these villages, and so we went out and bought a whole bunch of lice shampoo with some of the money we raised, and I think just about every place we went, we found lice. So that's a shot of Suzanne. We got to do kids, adults. The building that's just in the corner there, we actually cleaned out, cobwebs, sprayed out, scrubbed it, and it used to be a kind of a local clinic in the village, so they were actually going to be able to use it to start taking care of some of their village people after we cleaned it out too. Really awesome. All right, go ahead, next slide. Again, more lice washing. Yeah, that wasn't common to see people in their jammas. That was just too cute of a picture to leave out, I'm sorry. I don't even like cats. Next one. This is one of the other villages we went to. It was down right by the water line. One of the poorest places to be there is down by the water line, because when the rainy season comes, and it was just the beginning of it, and the waters come, the water rises, 10 feet, depending on where you're at, and most of that's going to be underwater, and they have to evacuate and leave, and all the garbage comes in, and then when that goes back down, it settles, and it is just the nastiest areas. So it was pretty crazy to see people making their houses in areas that they know that they're going to have to abandon in 3 months of the year. All right, next slide. Kind of a shot. This is actually probably they said it, this time is probably one of the cleaner times. It usually is the worst when the water settles back down and it's just getting ready to go up. So you can imagine if that's the cleanest on the shore there, what it's going to look like in about 3 months. Next slide. That is Saman eating a tarantula. Saman is our main tuk-tuk driver. When Steps of Justice first started going over there, he was a random tuk-tuk driver that they just were using, and they just started using him again and again. And eventually, he got saved, his family accepted Christ. He's been working with a lot of the places that we work with there. He was the one that got us connected to the garbage dump. He goes out there once a week and works with them. He does full-time ministry now. One of the things we were able to do with some of the money we brought, and I think you'll see it in one of the later shots here, is we were able to buy him a motorcycle. So all the motorcycles there are these little 100cc or 125cc motorbikes. Even the ones that take the tuk-tuks around that carry 4 other people are 125cc motorcycles. And he was having to drive the whole tuk-tuk around to get to and from his ministry places and where he was working and doing school. And it's kind of like this welded on frame thing, so you can't just conveniently take it off like a boat trailer or something. So we were able to, actually we partnered with the guy right behind him. We went in and were able to each pitch in and get him a motorcycle, which it was amazingly cheap. Only motorcycles that cheap over here. But this is the last day, and we ate tarantula. And when I say we, I mean everybody but me, because I did not eat tarantula. I have no problem with that. Next one. Yeah, picture the motorcycle that we bought. Next one. And this is our team out in front of Saman's house, where our team helped them build the house last year. They came in right at the end of when it was being built and did some finishing work on it, and I think got a fridge in there, which I pulled a can of, I don't even know what it was called, some weird drink I bought out of the store, and I can report that the refrigerator's still working great. Next one. So this is the fried, roasted, I'm not sure, boiled, dead tarantula. This is my favorite part about this picture, is the fact that there's dead spiders on it and not live ones. Yeah, three of the people in our group actually ate the thing whole, stuck it into their mouth, and then sucked in the legs. It's a video. If anyone wants to see it, just come find me. It's a big can of note for me. Next slide. So this is funny because this is probably the last day in Cambodia, and this might be the most sun that I ever saw when I was there, because it was upper 80s, cloudy the whole time, and humid. But beautiful city. There's so many buildings going up there. The infrastructure is exploding right now, mainly because of foreign investment, Chinese money that's being brought in, and all these areas are popping up that are kind of stratifying the city, where the upper class and the money and the Chinese people that are coming in are kind of carving out areas for themselves. And the poor areas where the Khmer people live aren't really benefiting a whole lot from the infrastructure and the money that's coming in. So it's just weird things that seems to be happening there right now, where it's really creating a new culture, and it's changing so much because of the money pouring into the infrastructure, that a lot of the people there just don't really know what to make of it, or it's just moving so quickly now. So it's kind of one of the things I think that's going to be really interesting about Cambodia over the next many years, is kind of how this change impacts them there and what that means, along with the elections and whatnot. So I apologize for not being as brief as I was trying to be, but it's kind of a quick glance at some of the things we did in Cambodia. Really cool stuff. I got so many more stories and little anecdotal jokes and crazy things, and I'm sure the people that went on the trip last year would love to chat about the places we went, the people we saw. But it was an amazing experience, really humbling, and it was really cool to see God really showing up and being there with us, and just not only touching the lives of the people that we worked with, the people that we were just relationally engaging with, but just the lives of us and how we see things and how we see ourselves, and just how God communicates to us, and taking that back here and learning, and applying that, and really, you know, these sorts of things don't just, you're not going there to like change and save Cambodia or something. It's really, a lot of it you feel like when you come back is, I feel like I got more out of it than I gave, which is really cool. But God's doing amazing stuff there, and I'm excited to see, you know, who might come from our church next year to Cambodia. If this is something that interests you, by all means, tap me on the shoulder. Suzanne, who wasn't able to make it here today, was with us. Ask her, James, there were several other people that were on the trip last year. But please do ask us. It's a great opportunity. Steps of Justice has been working there for over 10 years. They have great relationships with people, organizations that are there every day doing stuff. So we're able to really, because of the relational credibility they have and what they've demonstrated with the year over year, we have the ability to just step alongside some amazing people and just really see some amazing things and just get a straight line right to helping some people. So it's an awesome opportunity and experience.
Why don't we stand together and thank the Lord for this opportunity to bless people in a different country. Lord Jesus, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for the humble ability of Refuge to be your hands and feet in Cambodia, where truly the poorest of the poor try to eke out an existence. And we thank you that we're able to give them material help and assistance, because you tell us that needs to be part of our mission. We can't go just with the good news of the gospel and then tell them to be warm and not give them a coat. So thank you that we're able to give them the proverbial coat and the motorcycle and the provision and the shampoo for the lice and the soccer balls. We thank you for the kindness and grace that was exemplified by that group. We thank you for Andy and Suzanne and their willingness to stick it out. And even though I'm sure there were moments that were troubling and disorienting, thank you for their witness. We pray that you would bless the people of Cambodia, that mission groups and Christians would continue to want to intervene in the lives of people who are desperately poor. They're desperately stuck in sin. They're desperately stuck in sex trafficking. There's just desperation everywhere you look. And so we thank you for the blessing of the little part that we get to play in this. And we pray that that will just continue to ripple throughout the country, and that others from churches all over the world will just continue like a godly spider web just all over the earth, meeting people who are in poverty, giving them clean water, giving them the gospel, helping them get out of sex trafficking. All these things that give praise to your name. Thank you again, Lord Jesus. We give you the praise this morning. Amen.
Amen.
Can we thank Andy again?